Hey there, everyone. Just starting up a little recording real quick for kind of a special announcement that I wanted to bring up here. Um, tomorrow afternoon, evening, at the time of this recording, and right now it's Tuesday, September 27th. Um, I have a group of players ready to hop on and play Dungeons and Dragons, the tabletop game, not like Neverwinter or DDO. We're going to be hopping on and playing the tabletop role-playing game. I will be running a special module that was recently published by Wizards of the Coast called Storm King's Thunder. And tomorrow's recording will be of our session 0. If you're unfamiliar with Dungeons and Dragons, or with tabletop games in general, basically they center around like a group of players. One player is what you would call a dungeon master or a game master, someone who puts together the story, provides the scenarios that the characters in this story are going to be facing. Those characters being the other players. Um, and what I have pulled up here for you guys is a Dungeons and Dragons character sheet. This particular character sheet, if you are an experienced Dungeons and Dragons uh, player, is available up on the DM's Guild, and is 100% free, or rather, pay what you want. Um, I would definitely recommend getting it because it autofills all of the stats and stuff that you'd need. If you're new to Dungeons and Dragons, do not feel daunted by this. It's actually a lot simpler than it looks. But I pulled it up so that I can give you guys kind of an idea of what my players will be looking at, and just to kind of give you a vague, kind of like a not necessarily vague, but just a general overview of what this game is. Um, this is a character sheet. Now, when I go through and I build up my characters, I usually start with like my background, such as my character's history, what they look like, if they have any enemies, that kind of thing, if they have any friends, so on and so forth. And then from there, I let that inform the rest of the character sheet. So you create this individual within a world that is created by your dungeon master, or that is supplied by the module. For instance, Storm King's Thunder takes place in the Forgotten Realms, the basic setting for Dungeons and Dragons. I will be adapting the module for a special world that I have put together for this group. Um, but what my players are basically going to be looking at is a character sheet much like this one, where all of your physical attributes, kind of like in Neverwinter Online, are represented by a numerical value. These numerical values end up giving you special modifiers, and if you come across a situation where there might be the element of chance, that player will roll a 20-sided die and either add their modifier or subtract if they have any penalties anywhere, which this character doesn't have any penalties. He's a level 4 sorcerer, so he's not really looking too badly off. He's actually really well built. But yeah, so if you're curious as far as playing Dungeons and Dragons, be sure to pop in tomorrow. Tomorrow. Pop in when I have the video uploaded and take a look at our session 0. If you're an experienced Dungeons and Dragons player looking to become a dungeon master, I would encourage you to watch the session 0 as well. Session 0s are special moments at the start of a Dungeons and Dragons campaign where the dungeon master will sit down and talk to his players, and everyone will kind of bounce kind of questions and answers and ideas off of one another. And it does a couple of different things. One is it informs the players about the world. It informs them about any special home rules that might be in effect. And it will also help give the dungeon master an idea for how to tie all of these character backstories into the story, how to basically give something that beyond just circumstance would cause uh, a player's character to be forced into a story such as this. Um, so, just kind of going through the basic aspects of the character sheet, I'd mentioned the physical attributes. Um, these physical attributes also inform other aspects, such as saving throws in case you're being attacked or something, and uh, you need some sort of innate kind of defense. That's what these are for. Um, your armor class is determined by usually your dexterity, along with the type of armor you're wearing, your shield if you have it. If you're a mage who makes use of like a magic armor, you can end up adding that to your armor class. Your proficiency bonus just means that you've been trained to use a particular object, such as in the case of Jorgen here, he's trained to use daggers, but not trained to use a mace. So as a result, if you look at the to hit or the attack bonus, his mace is only going to give him +2. So when I roll a d20, when I'm trying to smack a kobold in the face, for instance, if I'm wielding my club or my mace, I'm only going to be doing adding 2 to that roll. But because I've been trained to use daggers, I'm going to be adding +4 instead. So, 20-sided die for most Dungeons & Dragons systems is your key die that you're going to be rolling during any kind of situation that determines success or failure. Over here, these are different skills. Once again, they are based off of your ability modifiers that you gained from those scores. Proficiency may be added to some skills as a result of either your class or your background. In this case, I only have marked history and persuasion on him, and I need to go through and double check the paper version of him because I transferred him over into digital form. I need to go through and figure out what his other proficiencies were, and then I'll be able to check them in. I'll be able to check them in based on that. Your class, everybody's character has a different class. So if you're familiar with MMOs, this is a fairly basic thing. Generally, in Dungeons & Dragons, there are 4 core classes. You have the the fighter, which is your tank, a mage, which is your area of attack, kind of area control kind of character. You have your healer, and you have and you have your rogue, which is all about DPS, as it were. In the case of Dungeons & Dragons, these classes are more varied. So what this character is here is a storm sorcerer. So he basically, as a young child, just innately developed magic and has been training himself to be able to use it more effectively. Other classes in this game include clerics, which are generally your healers. They channel the power of the gods in order to cause magical effects in the area around them. Sometimes you have druids, which are capable of shape-shifting into different animals during combat. Fighters, very self-explanatory. They run in, they hit stuff, they are the tanks. Rogues, DPS isn't really a thing in a tabletop game, but per turn they're able to do more damage than almost any other class in the game. So that's the kind of stuff we're looking at as far as classes. Levels we'll be starting the campaign off at level 1, so we don't have to worry about levels quite yet. There are different races in the game. Human is the one that Jorgen is, but there are everything from halflings, which are like hobbits, to dwarves, to elves, to half-orcs and such. The world that we'll be playing this in has some other races that are custom-built, either for this particular world, or have been custom-built for other worlds and have been adapted for use in this world. So you'll be able to see some of those, such as like the Damphir, which is half vampire, half another species, or even the Ichikins in this world that I'm running are kind of like anthropomorphic animals. Other aspects that the class will give you include like certain mechanical aspects, such as the fact that my character is capable of flying when he's using storm magic. He's able to, as a result of his magic, he can speak, read, and write the elemental language, the elemental languages of the world. He can use what are called meta magics, which allow him to increase the abilities of his spells or make them easier to cast, that kind of thing. The kind of bread and butter of a character, the basic thing that you absolutely want in a D&D character would be those ability scores I mentioned earlier and your actual background. The neat part about 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is that your background can sometimes be chosen directly out of the player's handbook, and then you can choose your special character features based off of that. So, like, Jorgen has specific character traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws that all kind of summarize different aspects of him. Meanwhile, because he's a noble, he's got certain privileges when he's in society, that kind of aspects. Your character sheet will cover what kind of gear you have. This is like the equivalent of your inventory. However, and not all DMs do this, I do this, is encumbrance is kind of a thing. So in this case, like, he's dangerously close to becoming encumbered, like that meaning he's dangerously close to having so much carried on him that he wouldn't be able to walk at his normal speed. He'd be slowed down, he'd be struggling to carry it, that kind of situation. Covers your gold and money and stuff like that. These are the meta magics I mentioned earlier. Other holdings, those are like extra treasures and stuff like that. This sheet right here is all of the special, like, background stuff, such as, like, these are the organizations he's friends with. This is the family he's from. This is usually replaced by, like, a holy symbol or a symbol of, like, if you're playing in the Adventurers League for Wizards of the Coast, you would have a different symbol here representing your alliance, what faction you're playing for. Different lifestyle prices, those kinds of aspects. And then, of course, the key thing for any kind of spellcaster being your spell sheet. For those of you who have an interest in playing Dungeons & Dragons but are kind of curious as far as how magic works, you gain what are called spell slots, which there are 9 levels of spell that you can have, even though, like, and each spells get more potent, more powerful the higher the level they are. And your character level does not reflect your spell level. They're two separate things. So basically, like, cantrips are spells that you can cast during your turn immediately with no issue, such as Firebolt here. If I'm in combat and I've got a goblin running up toward me, well, I can cast Firebolt on my turn. I'll be rolling a 10-sided die in order to determine the fire damage, but I do have to make a ranged spell attack against the target, in which case I'd be rolling a d20, adding my attack modifier here, and if it beats the goblin's armor class, then it hits. So different spells have different aspects. Some of them are more utilitarian, such as Prestidigitation. Others are more combat-oriented, like most of my spells here are along the lines of combat, whereas Prestidigitation really looks like my only utility spell. Which, why would he need a bunch of utility spells if he's a noble? Everybody else provides it for him. This is kind of a player reference for all that kind of stuff, and it seems daunting when you first look at all of these rules just like condensed like this, but in all reality, the game is super simple to play, and if you guys have any kind of interest in playing Dungeons & Dragons or tabletop role plays in general, you'll find that the way the game plays is actually exceptionally easy, and those rules and stuff are more like guidelines, especially when you have a Dungeon Master who's more lenient or has a different interpretation of the rules than the book might have. So all that kind of stuff is just the super basic rundown of what a character sheet is. what we will be doing tomorrow is what is called a session zero, bouncing ideas back and forth, as I'd mentioned earlier, and also kind of settling all the final aspects of characters, determining, okay, this is who my character is, this is how he's going to have reached this place that we're all at. Um, by the way, Mr. DM, this is the kind of thing I'm looking for later on, or this is a kind of item that I'm searching for, or this is my character's goal in life, that kind of thing. Um, if you're interested, or like if you are interested in becoming a DM, definitely watch that session zero. It is by far one of the most important sessions of a Dungeons and Dragons game. If you have other questions as far as what a session zero is, head on over to Nerdarchy's YouTube channel. Nerdarchy is a group of guys here in the States who also play Dungeons and Dragons, and they have many more years collectively of role playing experience than I do, and they explain what a session zero is. I think they show a couple of session zeros as well, so on and so forth. Just kind of give you an idea of what all that is. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this quick little rundown. If you have questions and stuff, be sure to check in on that session zero that'll be coming up, and